she was inspired to go to Joplin, Missouri, and feed those folks who were homeless because of America's worst tornado disaster. 120 people confirmed dead, 10 unaccounted for right now. Just amazing, devastating. Tommy Calvert live in studio with Joan Cheever. Now let me tell you a little bit about Joan. Okay, Joan is a good friend of mine. She's a saint in San Antonio.
No,
She's working on it.
No.
She's working on it.
Got a long way to go, man.
Well, we all do. We all fall short. Mother feeder. Shocking pictures. Just tell me a little bit, Joan, about what inspired you to go to Joplin and do what you did.
Well, I'm a news junkie, a former newspaper reporter, and so I've been watching the news and just saw the devastation and thought, this is such an incredible scene. I mean, it was the pictures, you couldn't even put words into it. And I thought, you know what, the people of Joplin are America's new homeless. And you know, my nonprofit is all about feeding the homeless and hungry. And you know, I kind of tossed it around in my head and I thought, you know what, I have a mobile kitchen. Of course, this is something I can do. I can't, drive a forklift. I can't, really do much with the recovery, lift heavy things or whatever. But what I can do is I can feed. I can feed people who are in dire straits, who are hungry, who are homeless, who need, a hot meal, because the motto for the Chow Train is fighting hunger one plate at a time. And so I thought, well, I know I can do this. I just have to figure out how to get there.
So you got some new friends from New Braunfels, from the American Legion.
My heroes.
Tell me how that came about.
Well, I was going to go up there, and I asked some girlfriends and my wonderful friend next door, Elaine Olivier, who happens to be a Katrina refugee. They just, she and her family just moved here.
Are they in the restaurant business too?
Yes, Casa Rio.
Yeah, a very famous place on the Riverwalk here.
That's right.
In San Antonio.
I said, well, come on, let's, we'll borrow a truck and it's a trailer, my food truck, and so, but I've never driven a trailer, I've never pulled a boat, but I figured, well, there's a lot of things I haven't done, and I'll just go for it. And a good friend, John Cheesley of Ready Fuel, who is like the disaster specialist.
Yeah, they provide emergency humanitarian diesel fuel for hospitals,
generators
that need to go.
He's been,
good friend,
tornadoes,
great man,
hurricanes,
great family.
New Orleans, and so I talked to him, and he said, if you've never pulled a trailer, John, I don't know how. I mean, are you kidding me? This is like 800 miles. And I said, well,
Joan is a petite little lady. When she came into the studio, I couldn't even see her over my computer monitor. I didn't know who was in here.
Oh, but I think big. But anyway, so I decided that I was going to go up there, and John said, really, you've got to have somebody drive you. And then he had heard through the grapevine that this group from the American Legion, number 179 in New Braunfels, was going up there. They have family members who had been injured. And so I called another friend. I said, do you know anybody in New Braunfels that might know these people? And then I thought, you know what? It's 4:30. It's 5 o'clock. I mean, I got to call. So I picked up the phone and made a cold call to the American Legion and introduced myself, and I talked to Rex Long. And he said, sure, come with us, caravan. That's sweet. You've got a mobile kitchen. And I said, yeah. So I want to go, cook and feed everybody. And so then he said, okay. And he told me like when they were going to meet the next morning. And I said, oh, I have one other question or favor. And he said, yeah. And I said, I'm really, I'm good in the kitchen, but I'm held behind the wheel of a car. I said, do you think maybe somebody could drive the truck to pick, with the trailer? And he said, oh, sure, no problem. So, got up there at New Braunfels and met Rex and Chris Long, who have family in Joplin, and were with Roy Holcomb and Kevin Blackwood and Elaine.
Your new friends.
New friend. 18 hours with somebody. You get to be fast friends. And they were the nicest guys. And really, they took such care of us because they knew everything about, the truck and the trailer. And,
wow.
And I will have you.
God works in mysterious ways.
No kidding. But I will say that this was a maiden voyage for the Chow Train. It had just been inspected on Tuesday. And within, 48 hours, 72 hours, it was on the road to Joplin.
Yeah, y'all don't hear me talking. The Lord works in mysterious ways. You have been going to cooking classes at St. Philip's College, and you have been learning to be a gourmet chef. So the folks in Joplin got a more than just dogs. I mean, tell me.
They were blown away. First of all, we didn't know exactly where to go because we just parked ourselves right in the middle of a neighborhood that was devastated, 2 blocks from the hospital. And
you actually brought a tile here for me,
right,
of the hospital that people died in.
Right, the hospital. I mean, it was actually the woman, Deanna, one of the cousins whose house was leveled. She works in the anesthesiology department there, and she was very close to the hospital. She was with her niece, Christy, when the tornado hit that neighborhood, and they were in the car going back to her house, and the car lifted up, and they got out of the car, and they had no place to go, and they grabbed onto a cyclone fence, and
so a lot of tears,
a
lot of good love feelings, obviously, which is really nice that people can come together in disaster and just realize there is a lot more that keeps us in good love feelings, obviously, which is really nice that people can come together in disaster and just realize there is a lot more that keeps us in common that sets us apart. So you were right next to the president.
Yes.
He was like where?
Like a block, 2 blocks away.
So how come you couldn't just go ask him?
I was
for dinner?
cooking off the head, but they survived, and the story of the weekend was about survival. The people that I met were the survivors, and all I did was give them a hot meal, but that, for them that time that was enough. We were in good company, in great company, and the stories that I heard were just, it's just hard to even describe. The scene and the devastation and the pain, and really the shock. They're still in shock, which is understanding. And so that's what I did, and it was amazing. And there's a lot that San Antonio can do for the people of Joplin.
A lot of good love feelings, obviously, which is really nice that people can come together in disaster and just realize there is a lot more that keeps us in common that sets us apart. So you were right next to the president.
Yes.
He was like where?
Like a block, 2 blocks away.
So how come you couldn't just go ask him?
I was
for
cooking.
Dinner?
I couldn't get
where?
Like a block, 2 blocks away.
So how come you couldn't just go ask him?
I was
for
cooking.
Dinner?
I couldn't get out of the kitchen. I was cooking, and I don't have that pull. I did read the account of it in the Joplin newspaper, and he said what people wanted to hear and needed to hear, and it was so heartfelt, and it was such a wonderful trip for him. I think he was, what they said, he was just personally so overwhelmed.
Yeah, describe it for our audience.
Well, like Dennis, my husband, I showed him the pictures, he said, it looks like apocalypse.
Well, for our listeners who want to know how they can help, what can they do?
Wheelie Gourmet and Tin Can Taco, which are 2 food trucks that are parked at Boardwalk on Bulverde, to do a benefit concert. I don't know all the details, it's just come up. You can also, if you want to, make donations. I'm not plugging it, but if you want to make it to the Chow Train.
Yeah. What's your website?
You can do that. It's, it's kind of one of those things. This happened really quickly. But the email is thechowtrain@aol.com.
Chow Train.
The Chow Train.
Yummy.
The Chow Train. And
where you have
Facebook,
braised pork for people who, need a little...
Right. And we did pulled pork sandwiches. That was a big hit.
Oh,
or they can make donations to the Chow Train.
Great.
That's in care of Joan Cheever at 21 Lynn Batts Lane, Suite 14, San Antonio, 78218. I'm not really.
It's okay.
I'm sleep deprived, but that's okay. AmeriCares, a wonderful organization based out of New Canaan, Connecticut, my former hometown. You can make donations online or by phone. Convoy of Hope. Feeding America. Call Erica Benavides at the San Antonio Food Bank. I hope that's okay, Erica. But they know they're working with all these food banks work together, and food banks are awesome. But there's
a lot of ways.
There's a lot of ways to help. I hope everybody comes to this benefit concert because that'll be San Antonio, doing it the way San Antonio.
We are out of time. With Joan Cheever, the Chow Train, doing the Lord's work, doing some great ambassadorship for San Antonio and Texas, and just showing what America's all about. We appreciate it. We love you, Joan.
Thanks for having me.